We can correlate the THC content of a bud to a leaf scan at 0.93%, 93% accuracy, which is really laboratory level type results, and also CBD and CBG at 0.9%.
That's John Roberts from Mariposa Technology talking about a new device called PAMAP that could be a real game changer for the floral hemp industry. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today we're going to learn more about PAMAP by talking to the guys from Mariposa Technology, co-founder and CEO John Roberts and COO Michael Dalle Molle. PAMAP stands for Predictive Analytical Modeling Application for Plants, and it has the ability not only to determine cannabinoid content in real time, but it can also determine the sex of your plants at an early stage so you can avoid accidental pollination. We're going to take a quick sponsor break and then come back with a few nuggets of hemp news and then get into our conversation with John and Mike from Mariposa Technology. This episode is brought to you in part by IND Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where their mission is to provide innovative agricultural products and services to connect American farmers with the pioneers and businesses that see hemp as a way to bring real and lasting change to our communities and planet. IND Hemp. All right, hello and welcome back. So we've got a couple of news nuggets here for you for this first week of October 2022. So Industrial Hemp had a Blue Ribbon Day this past weekend in Unionville, Pennsylvania. Chester County company Hemp Alternative was given the Blue Ribbon in the Other Small Grains category at the Unionville Community Fair for their entry of hemp grain. This is a big deal for Hemp Alternative. It's also a big deal for hemp grain and a huge deal for hemp in general because look, hemp is being treated just like any other commodity crop at a local fair. So congrats to you all. All right, this next story comes to us from WKYT in Lexington, Kentucky. And it says that a man claims he was sold Delta 8 instead of CBD and it caused him to crash into a bus. Roy Howard is suing Hemp XR, alleging employees there sold him a Delta 8 vape pen without telling him what it was, leading him to crash into a Lextram bus. The lawsuit says Howard went to Hemp XR looking for CBD oil to help with his day-to-day anxiety. He says the employee at Hemp XR gave him a Delta 8 vape pen and threw away all the packaging that contains warnings about using the product. Howard told the employee that he didn't want something that would get him high and that he was going to use it on his drive home. He says the employee assured him it would not, but once behind the wheel, Howard crashed into a Lextram bus and was hurt. So what's the lesson here? Maybe it's don't vape and don't use Delta 8. But also, don't throw away your packaging. And who knows, maybe this guy was going to crash into a bus anyway. I guess we'll never know. Moving on. This next story comes to us from the Belleville News-Democrat, which I believe is in southern Illinois, not too far from St. Louis. The story says that investigators believe they know the cause of the Metro East Industrial Park fire that happened last week. Investigators believe it was the spontaneous combustion of organic material that ignited a fire at a Sauget Industrial Park Monday afternoon. Sauget is just a little bit to the east of St. Louis on the other side of the Mississippi River. Thick plumes of black smoke billowed from Eagle Industrial Park in the 2400 block of Mississippi Avenue, just north of the intersection with Monsanto Avenue. Police were notified at about 4 p.m., said Sauget Fire Chief Roger Thornton. Thornton said a warehouse on the property was storing bundles of hemp mulch that were wrapped really tight and stacked. The heat generated by its natural decomposition may have set off the fire. Once it got started, it took off, Thornton said. It was a mess. The fire was fully involved. Bright orange flames were coming through the whole roof. It was your typical fire, he said. All right, so I am sorry to hear about the destruction caused by this fire, and I am sorry that this hemp company, I presume in St. Louis, lost some of their inventory. But what I'm happy to report here is that in this story about hemp burning, there was not one single joke about people getting high from the smoke. So I think that's progress. All right, and one final thing before we get into our conversation with the guys from Mariposa Technology. You've heard me mentioning the Pennsylvania Hemp Summit. It's coming up in just about a month and a half. It's November 14th and 15th in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I think I mentioned last week that we might be doing a live podcast with a band from the stage there at the summit. That, however, is not happening, but still there are so many great reasons to attend the Pennsylvania Hemp Summit. On that Monday night, there's going to be an interesting discussion with legislators. It is Harrisburg after all, and they will be in town. And also, our friend from I&D Hemp, Ken Elliott, is going to be one of the keynote speakers at this year's Pennsylvania Hemp Summit. So you got to come to this and hear what he's got to say. I'm pretty sure he's going to be talking about the environmental benefits of hemp, the economic benefits of hemp, and how hemp has the potential to revitalize small-town America. So you don't want to miss that. You can learn more at pahempsummit.com. If you are a Pennsylvania hemp permit holder, you get a discount. So check it out online. This is not the last time you're going to hear me talking about the PA Hemp Summit. It's coming up. It's going to be a good show. So I hope to see you there, because I will be there for 2 days. Yeah, I think I'm going to be moderating some panel discussions, maybe doing some introductions, but I think it's going to be a great time there in Harrisburg on November 14th and 15th, the Pennsylvania Hemp Summit. All right, so our guests today from Mariposa Technology, they're based down in New Orleans, and they've got some really interesting technology to share with you. So here we go. John Roberts and Michael Dalle Molle from Mariposa Technology. Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great, Eric. Thanks for having us.
Doing great. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, sure. So you've got some exciting new technology to share with listeners. But first, I wonder if you could each give me a brief introduction as to who you are and what your role is in the company.
So I'm John Roberts. I'm here in New Orleans, Louisiana. I am the president of Mariposa Technology and one of the co-founders, operating on a daily business to expand what we're doing and market our service to hemp farmers.
Yeah, and my name is Michael Dalle Molle. I'm one of John's partners at Mariposa Technology. I'm also the Chief Operating Officer, and I handle the day-to-day business operations for us.
Cool. Well, welcome to both of you. And let's start talking about this exciting new tech. So you've just released this new technology that could really be a game changer for the hemp industry, specifically for the cannabinoid flower side of things. So what do you call this technology, and what problems were you solving for?
Well, Eric, the technology is based on Raman spectroscopy in a handheld device, which is a technique using a laser to excite the molecules within a organic organism that will then give a result of a molecular fingerprint. And when you have that structural knowledge of the plant, a living plant, then you can make all types of determinations about its health and other characteristics and chemical makeup. So that's the technology, basically what the technology is behind what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of the technology is to help farmers, increase their production and thus their profits with real-time results on site on living plants.
Okay, so from what I understand, it will sex the plant, determining if it's male or female, and you can also test THC levels with it. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We're continuing to expand our capabilities. So we started with the differentiation between the three types of cannabis: high THC, high CBD, low THC, and then low CBD, low THC industrial hemp. And so Professor Kurowski started with that at Texas A&M. I'm bringing up our partner with the university, and that's when we got involved. And at that point, and have expanded the capabilities to quantitatively measure THC in live hemp plants, because that's a big pain point, of course, with the 0.3% THC limits. And then during our work, we've also then been able to prove that we can identify the sex of the plant in immature plants. So far, it looks like around 6 to 8 weeks. We're trying to see how young we can go, but definitely immature plants.
Okay. So, how does it work? Is it something like it's a handheld device? Like how would farmers sort of interface with it?
Yeah, so a farmer would interface with our service by simply pointing our device at a given plant and firing the laser. You get a result in about 60 seconds. And that result is in the form of a spectrum. And that spectrum is run through our algorithms, which will in turn provide a result for the test performed. And the goal for what we're really aiming to do is to provide all of the results John mentioned and more that are in development now with just one scan. So there's not a lot of redundancy in the process. A farmer or anyone for that matter using our service can simply scan a plant and hopefully unlock all sorts of amazing information about that plant to help them cultivate the most optimized crop possible.
Okay. And like nutritional things too?
Yes.
Or deficiencies? Or
yes. Yeah. So, I mean, we have abiotic stress tests underway right now. We're working on determining viral loads within the plant. I mean, we're really aiming to provide as much knowledge as possible. And a lot of these really interesting key points that we are able to understand from this spectrum is these points of data are kind of just popping up on us left and right. And so we're setting out to achieve certain goals, and along that way, we find a lot of other amazing results too. So it's proving to be there's quite a lot of potential in this service.
Okay. So like in my mind, I'm picturing like a voltage tester. Like you go out and you stick two electrodes on the plant. It's probably not what it is. Can you describe the physical attributes of this gadget? Is it a gadget?
It is an existing gadget, actually, and I'll get into that in a second. But so some of our team members like to call it the Star Trek tricorder, I guess. But it's actually not a scan down like that, held off. You actually do touch the plant in the area that you're scanning it. So you're holding it directly against the device when the laser shoots. But it is a device that's made already that's been repurposed. So Professor Kurowski at Texas A&M, again mentioning them, that he repurposed this agilent device, which was already being used to identify chemicals and bomb-making materials and these types of things for the TSA and Customs and Border Patrol and the military. He realized that the power of this laser and device, were just the right settings to also work on live plants.
Okay. And how did you get to hemp? Like, why did you decide that you wanted to work in the hemp space?
So, my original co-founder and I, Michael Adler and I, had been discussing hemp and the accessories to the hemp industry and getting involved during the pandemic. And so we happened to come across the problem of laboratory testing in the industry. His cousin was farming some hemp in Florida at the time and was expressing to us all these difficulties that he was having. And so in due diligence of looking up possibly starting a lab, we happened to come across Professor Kurowski's paper that identified the three distinct types of cannabis using this technology that he had developed. And so we contacted him and went and met with him the next week and spent a few days with him. And over the course of a couple of months, while Michael was along for that ride too, we had a lot of negotiations, but ended up in the agreement with Texas A&M to commercialize this offering.
Okay. So do they own the tech and you license it? Or how does that work?
So that was why the negotiations went for a while. So no, actually, we were able to negotiate a services agreement whereby we paid up front and we owe no further technology fees or royalties. We own all the data.
Oh, okay. Does it collect, like, would a farmer using it, would that data be then sent to you for collection, or how does it work?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So everything we've done with our database development has all been happening in the cloud, and we've done that on purpose so that everything is happening in real time and all of the data comes in and hits us in the cloud. Our database processes all of the information, sends it back to the farmer, and we do collect and keep that information. It also allows the farmer to go back and look at previous scan history. So if we do have farmers who subscribe to our services year over year or season over season, they'll be able to look back and track data on previously grown crops.
Okay, so it is a subscription service, sort of, but you also have this, like a physical piece of technology that the farmer would have.
Yep, That's correct. We are a software as a service business that is also renting or leasing devices to customers.
Okay.
Yeah, the devices are fairly expensive, Eric, and so our model is to rent them to people on a weekly basis.
Okay.
Obviously, cannabis farming is based on weeks, and so someone may rent it for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the case may be, and then
Okay.
they can choose between the various data sets that we have to subscribe to if they want the male-female answer, if they want the CBD answer, etc.
Okay. And how accurate is it?
It's actually amazingly accurate, and we were ahead of where we thought we were going to be. So the most exciting thing that we were working on just this past 2 months is that we've been able to correlate scans of leaves with the content of the buds of the plant. In fact, we did have that public paper published in August about the male female. We plan on having another paper ready to be published in November or December about this new technology, which is pretty breakthrough. So we can correlate the THC content of a bud to a leaf scan at 0.93%, 93% accuracy, which is really laboratory level type results, and also CBD and CBG at 0.9%. So, and we're continuing to work on this. So, and we've had it verified by an outside expert.
Okay, so let me see if I get this straight. You could test like a part of the plant that's not the bud, but it would tell you what the eventual bud is going to have, cannabinoid wise?
So in other words, what we're doing is we are scanning the leaf of a leaf of the plant, and then we are predicting the content of the bud at that time. And so on a dry weight basis. So yes, so a farmer would be able to scan his live plant and get an accurate determination of what that dry weight basis THC would be if he harvested right then.
Wow, that's amazing. How does this differ from existing technology?
Go ahead, Mike. Or I'm happy to keep going. But existing technology doesn't exist in live plants, right? So we are doing something here that is brand new. We have, of course, competitors from laboratories to other portable devices and that type of thing, but they're all based on using chemicals to prepare a sample, destructively cutting parts of the plant off. And we don't do those things. And so you have to open up the competitive arena pretty broadly to start bringing in competitors, because we do something very specific and that no one else does.
Okay. And does anyone else have access to this technology, or you guys are the only ones who sort of own this?
So, when you say I have access to it, we have our own proprietary database and our own software algorithms that we've developed, over the last 15 months or so. And so those are proprietary. No one else has access to them. Is it possible for someone else to come up with a similar system? Yeah, I guess, we don't have a patent on this particular, use for this technology.
Okay.
But no, we're far ahead of anybody, and we don't know of anybody else in the world that's doing the same work that we are.
Cool. Will this eliminate the need for third-party testing, or could third-party testing agencies use this? Like, would this generate some kind of COA that would, that the Department of Ag would accept?
So that's a good question. We get asked that a lot. And so we really don't have any, dreams of replacing the entire regulatory scheme across 50 states. That would take a lot of work and effort, and go and visit lobby all these legislatures and such. And so, we're open, of course, to sharing this with the USDA, and I'm certain that we will do that. Our CSO has talked to NIST and some of the work that they're doing. But as far as, any replacement of the regulatory scheme to use our technology, I don't see that happening in the near future.
And so it's available now. Like, somebody could go to your website and subscribe to the service and sort of rent one of these machines?
Well, no. So we plan on having we're making some software changes. Right now, it's a clunky system, Eric. We have to download the scans from the device. We have to put them onto a laptop. You have to upload them. It's not a customer seamless, experience. We're creating the software to
Okay.
communicate between the device and the affiliated either phone or tablet that will be there during the scans to communicate to the cloud. And so we think January we'll be able to rent these out. But right now, we can, if we're visiting and doing scans ourselves across 7 different states. We've visited already in different hemp facilities, but it takes about a half an hour right now for us to go through that whole process, doing it ourselves, to give a result. And so to get down to where we're going to be able to give a result in just a couple minutes, and the farmer just has to scan and that's it and get a result back, we're a few months away from that still.
Okay. But harvest season 2023 will be here before we know it.
Certainly.
So,
That's
yeah.
right.
Can you talk about some of that, like the work you did with hemp farmers in those 7 different areas? Like who were you working with? What style of farming were they doing? Just sort of any farm data there.
Yeah, so about 2/3 of the facilities we and growers we worked with are indoor, and the rest outdoor. So it's been across the realm of different things, from the small mom and pops to fully integrated large $100 million hemp companies. The interesting thing, Eric, is that when we started this company, the three of us sat around and discussed about how we probably have to have a lot of NDA stuff, and we're going to have to give incentives. We might even have to pay people to let us come and scan their crops. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's been the most amazing experience I've had in business. The collaboration and the working together atmosphere that's going on. We've never had to sign a paper with anyone, and we've, of course, everyone said, please, if you can help us give more information about our crop, we're happy to have you come, just share the information. So that's what we've been doing over the last 15 months plus, and it's been a great experience.
That's great. Yeah, I've noticed just in the work that I do that there is an amazing spirit of collaboration amongst, the hemp industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a really wonderful process for us, and all three of us were really surprised, pleasantly surprised at how open everyone in this industry has been. Um, I think it's even more of a sign that there's a really burning desire for change in the way that people can test and monitor their crops. And what we are doing today would not be possible without all of the amazing farmers and growers we've been working with over the last year and a half.
Cool. What other sort of possibilities are out there, like apart from testing for sex and for THC and other cannabinoid levels? You mentioned a little bit about it before, but like, what else is possible with this technology?
Well, we are going to start nitrogen experiments. That's probably the next big thing that we'll be looking forward to. That's we can't announce our university partner, but it's prominent agricultural institution in the Ivy League that is going to run the trials for us on
Okay,
nitrogen.
I think I know
And
who that
so,
is just on
yeah,
based on what you said.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so we'll be announcing that soon. We just got back from a trip up there. It was quite impressive. But the most exciting thing to me in the last month that I've seen, Eric, is that Redwire Space is going to send hemp seeds to the International Space Station next year with some type of temporary greenhouse that can be assembled up there. And so it's interesting that they're picking hemp seeds to send up there. But there's the future of space demands some type of agriculture in space to support humans. And so we have a small device that possibly could be utilized in that experiments in the future, because you're not going to send up scientific equipment that when it costs, I don't know, $75,000 per gram or something of weight to
Right.
go
Right.
into space, right? So that's really one of the things that I'm keeping on the sidelines to keep an eye on going into 2023.
Oh, that's so cool. And you said Redwire Space is the name of the company?
Yeah, it's a publicly traded corporation. So they're on the New York Stock Exchange, but
Cool. I'll track them
they're
down and see if they want
yeah.
to talk to me.
Sure. Yeah.
Hemp in space, right? I mean, yeah, the implications there, like you could maybe create atmosphere, you could feed astronauts. There's a lot you could do with plants, not only on Earth, but everywhere.
Right.
Are there any applications here with this technology for the fiber and grain sectors of the hemp industry?
Well, I mean, nitrogen levels are important. Male female determination are important. And even when you maybe get to a performance-based system of testing on industrial hemp, there's still going to be a need to measure cannabinoid,
Cannabinoids.
cannabinoids content of the plants. And so, even though you have, for example, beer that's alcohol free, you still have to test the beer to make sure that it's alcohol free. And so, all across the cannabis industry, and all types of hemp, we feel that our technology will be utilized.
Okay. This is probably a good time to bring up the hemp exemption that some people are working on. They're trying to get fiber and grain sectors of the industry sort of exempt from testing because the THC levels are irrelevant, to your end products of, clothing or food or whatever. So maybe tell me a little bit about where Mariposa Technology came from. Like, how did this business start? What else do you do?
So the business started actually, like I said, during the pandemic. Michael Adler, who's the CEO of the company and my co-founder, and I were looking into the hemp space and the hemp laboratory more specifically, and then met with Texas A&M when we found this article, and that was the start of the company. Michael Dalle Molle was already working with us. And came on as a partner then with us to form our triumvirate. And so we've been working as a team together since then. We've continued to develop the product. Agilent is a partner of ours. They make the device, and so they're making some software changes to the device for us so that that communication can happen more readily, namely adding a Bluetooth connection for the device. And so that's the history of where the company came from. We incorporated only in May of last year.
Oh, okay. Cool. And what other projects are you working on? Is this the only thing you've got? I imagine you've got a few other things happening. Can you talk about that?
Do you mean within Mariposa or
within Mariposa? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mariposa Technology is focused on PAMAP, which is this predictive analytical model for plant application for plants.
Okay.
And so that's until we have paying customers, which hopefully we're going to have, like I mentioned, in the first quarter of next year. That's our sole focus. We will continue to expand the capabilities of PAMAP as we've talked about, but we're staying highly focused on that for right now.
Are there other sectors of agriculture that could benefit from using this technology?
And so Professor Kurowski has actually already utilized this technology on things from roses to corn, right? But if you want to cultivate roses, that's a plethora of information just on Google. And so while we could help a rose cultivator, the value that we can provide maybe is secondary to they can just start with Google information. And if you want to get into the corn sector, you got to go through a long sales cycle with a conglomerate, basically, to get into their procedures and the science that they already use. So that's why we picked hemp, because it really is brand new, is obviously illicit and illegal for 50 years. So there's very little data. And so we felt we provided the most value and would attract the most interest by starting with hemp. But we certainly will be able to work with other agricultural products in the future.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like there's a ton of applications throughout agriculture for this. And you called it PAMAP. Is that right? And that's the name you're going to market it with. And what does that stand for again?
Yeah, so our very first commercial offering, which is the testing protocol we've been discussing, is called PAMAP, PAMAP. And like John mentioned before, it's short for predictive analytical modeling application for plants. And we specifically named it this way because we do see a very bright future for this service well beyond hemp. The obvious second for us would be just the general cannabis industry.
Mm-hmm.
And like John mentioned, we really wanted to focus on hemp because we see the pain points in the hemp industry as being the most significant, and to be quite honest, the most easily fixed by our device. Our device and our software work extremely well with the cannabis plant. But I would definitely say beyond hemp and cannabis, the potential is pretty limitless. I think you can think of it as a tool that, with the right data and the right user behind it, it's providing a 100% molecular fingerprint of any biomass that it scans. So with time and energy, we'll be able to provide very similar services to multiple industries, I believe.
Okay, great. And there's probably applications for this technology that you haven't thought of yet that maybe some enterprising entrepreneurial folks will tell you about it. Like, oh, look, I can use it for this too. So that's exciting.
Yeah, we've actually already had a lot of really interesting conversations with different scientists all over the country who have really exciting projects going on that they believe our system could work very well for. So we have a lot of people knocking at the door. And once we get our initial focus of hemp handled, I think we're going to start letting the floodgates open.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. Congratulations on all that. You must be very proud of what you've done. So good job.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to tell listeners about your technology or your company, or just your thoughts on hemp?
Well, I think that it's interesting, that the hemp industry is struggling here in the first few years, but that the focus is still there in the university sector and who we're working with, and that's the key to me. While hemp farmers may have various problems, and some quit and some new start, as long as we have the research going on in the academic world, and I see that across a lot of universities. So I'm very hopeful for the future of hemp and what we're going to be able to accomplish in greener future and carbon sequestration and the uses of hemp across many different industries, replacing plastic. All of these types of things are going to make a bright future for hemp across North America.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'd also add that I think something when we first started this project and we were going through our customer discovery process and we're truly trying to understand the pain points of everyone from farmers to labs to research institutions, it seemed really obvious to us that a big problem was the lack of control and having to continually go into your field, cut samples, send them to labs. Different labs are providing different answers. We felt like we really needed to be a business that could provide a single service for everyone involved in the cultivation of hemp to make their lives much easier and to allow them to really build a strong foundation of knowledge around the plant and around their cultivation. So I would say essentially we're here to try and make everybody's lives a little easier. We don't want to replace the COA. We don't want to replace the existing testing industry. We just want to make the cultivation process not a mystery anymore. We want people to understand what they're doing, and we feel like we're the solution for that.
Okay. Do you have any sense of what it would cost a farmer to get a subscription? What would that look like?
Yeah, so there's two components there. So with the rental, the device is, we're looking at an initial like $150 a week. And so, they might rent it for 4 weeks for $600, and then they could subscribe to the various databases that we have available, and that could be anywhere from a few $100 to $1,000 a year. Or if they're growing multiple crops, indoors. If it's an outdoor situation, then maybe they only want to subscribe for 3 months or 2 months. And so we're working on that pricing, but obviously be less than $1,000 a year.
Okay.
Right.
All right. And then where can people go to learn more about this and just sort of follow what you're doing?
So we have a website, mariposatechnology.com. We have a press release out. We've gotten a lot of really good media coverage. Like John mentioned earlier, we do have an article that was published in Molecules earlier this year, and we do plan on having a few other publications coming out soon. So the information is out there in the ether. The very best place, though, would be our website or our LinkedIn page, which is just, type in Mariposa Technology, it'll take you right there. And that's where we're posting the majority of our updates and progress of research trials and all of that good stuff.
Awesome. This sounds really exciting, and I'm really glad that we connected here today. So John Roberts and Michael Dalle Molle, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Eric. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Eric. It was a pleasure.
All right. So what do you think of the PAMAP? Pretty neat stuff, I think. So I would love to hear your feedback on this or anything you've heard on today's show or any other show, or just random questions about the universe. That's right. I'm now taking questions about anything. Go for it. Send me an email. podcast@lancasterfarming.com. All right, so that's it for me. My name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. Sign up for our newsletters. Sign up for a subscription to the paper. We can send you a print edition, it'll show up every week, or you can get the e-edition, which uses a whole lot less paper. In fact, it doesn't use any paper. Anyway, so lancasterfarming.com. Thank you all for listening to today's show. If you like what you hear, give us one of those positive reviews over there on your podcasting app. That's always fun. It's fun to do that, right? Doesn't take too much time. All right, until next time, I will see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2022 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written and recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock. The music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow. Industrial Hemp, yup.